The most effective people internally are the ones who are best at telling their boss that like something is on fire. And then you also tell them, but it's okay, I found this solution and like here's what we need to do to fix it. Painting that this is a true emergency, that we're losing an AI search, where our biggest competitor is winning. And then they're like, okay, but then if we go use
AI search is changing how people discover brands. Search is no longer just about Google, visibility isn't just rankings anymore, and attribution is getting messier by the day. Today's guest is right at the center of this. Nick Lafferty leads growth marketing at Profound, an AI search tracking platform that is helping huge brands understand how they're showing up in LLMs like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity. Nick has some major experience leading growth at huge companies like Loom and Mailgun, driving millions of B2B SaaS pipelines, and is now in one of the earliest go to market teams in what could be the next major marketing channel. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Charlie. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so glad to have you here, and I cannot wait to pick your brains today on everything AI search growth and personal growth as well. So I'd love to just jump right in. What do you think early adopters of AI search know that most businesses haven't yet realized? You're working with some of the biggest brands, so there's got to be some lessons in there.
Yeah. I think the most interesting, there's two things really. One is that velocity is a moat in AI search, and kind of what I mean by that is the faster you move, the faster you can update existing content, ship new content, the faster you can see results in AI search in terms of increased visibility, citations, kind of like whatever your metric of measurement is there. And that's really because answer engines can pick up and cite content in a matter of days. I've published content for Profound that gets cited in 2 days, and that's what kind of like a middle of the road kind of domain. And so imagine if you're like Walmart or Target or Apple, the speed at which you can publish something, if you can get through all the red tape there, it can be really advantageous for you. And so I think when it comes to more like emergent players coming into like a more legacy industry, that the faster you move, you can kind of really improve your rankings in the matter of days or weeks.
Which is kind of incredible. We've seen the same with some of our clients that articles we've published, both on their site, but also often when we're doing digital PR pieces on other sites, being cited within a couple of days, which SEOs who are used to working predominantly with traditional Google search, their minds are probably thinking like, oh my goodness, like sometimes it can take 4 weeks to multiple months to actually see content performing well. So the speed at which AI can actually cite content is pretty impressive when it comes to that. I can imagine though a lot of big businesses, some of them are thinking like, wow, what an opportunity. And others there must be huge trepidation because like you say, there's tape around like brand teams, legal teams, positioning of the business, all sorts of things that mean it takes time to actually ship content out.
Yeah, exactly. And like it matters across multiple different industries too. Like I've been
Mm.
playing around with Claude Code a lot, both like vibe coding things for myself and Profound. And one of the interesting things about all these kind of agentic coding tools is that if you ask it to make something, it will make decisions about your tech stack for you.
Mhm.
It'll be like, oh, you need use Supabase for your database or Vercel to host, and it'll
Mhm.
just make these decisions for you. And like I think that is what's really interesting about AI search too, is that if you're a developer, even like Claude Cowork came out for non-developers recently, and so these systems are increasingly making brand and product choices for you. And at that point, you have to make a conscious decision to say, no, I don't want that. I want this other tool. But if you don't know like a better database or a better hosting provider, you just accept the AI's recommendation. It builds your app
Mhm.
for you. And so I think like that's the interesting next layer. Um, Someone at Sequoia, I think her name is Sonia, she coined this as a term called agent-led growth. It's kind of like the next evolution of product-led growth, which I just find really
Mhm.
interesting right now.
Nick, you are so knowledgeable in this sector. I can tell from just a couple of minutes of speaking to you. But I have to ask you, like, the personal question about why you returned in-house to work with Profound. What is it about this sector that made you want to come back?
Yeah, it's kind of like the perfect combination of what I've done in my career, my interests, and me being at the right like experience level to come in and just drive growth for a business like Profound. Um,
Mhm.
Before this, as you know, I spent 2 years on this consulting journey, helping
Yeah.
incredible brands like Glean, Watershed, Angel List, Air, helping them drive growth, mostly through like paid ads, Google ads, LinkedIn ads. Ran a completely solo digital marketing agency, very purposely did not want to hire anyone. Just wanted to run my own business, do it my own way. And it was great. I had a great 2 years. Was very financially rewarding. For a while, I ran a newsletter and kind of like blogged about the process of going from zero income to up to like 30, $40,000 a month of consulting income as well. Kind of built a little following around that. And it was great. I loved it. And then, but I kept doing the same thing over and over again. And so the excitement I found it in my work was kind of decreasing over time. And then
Mhm.
that happened at the same time I got introduced to James, the co founder, CEO of Profound, and a couple conversations later, I literally had an offer letter in my inbox. It was maybe like 10 days from me meeting him to when I had an
Wow.
offer, which is it was just insane. Like we just clicked. We just got it basically.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, the one advantage of me publicly blogging about my business and my income. So I was like, look, man, like, here's how much money I made last month and last year. Like, this is what you have to compete against is like not a salary, but like the business I run, which helped me really negotiate from a place of strength, of like significant strength,
Oh my
which was
goodness.
great
What
too.
a
Yeah.
That is absolutely fantastic. It must have been firstly, when you actually meet someone and you just like click and gel, it's one of the best things in your career, I think, because who you work with makes such a huge difference to actually enjoying your day-to-day role and like putting the hours in every week that comes with working life. Um, One of the biggest transitions there for you though has to be going from like spending years working essentially by yourself without colleagues, without a team around you to now like leading a team that's rapidly growing. Like I see on your LinkedIn, every other week a new person is coming in and they've got the profound cap and they're joining your marketing team, which must be an amazing experience in itself, but the gap must be so huge.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, it's been quite the shift. And yeah, like I joined as the first marketer. We just hired our sixth marketer. She started officially today to run events and experiences for us. And so, being early was something I wanted to. I wanted to be the first marketer. I
Mm.
kind of wish it lasted a little longer. Like Profound has grown so fast. We had two fundraising rounds last year. I joined at like around 20 employees. Now we're over 100. So we just kind of like sprinted through what is usually my favorite part of a company is like the early stage where you can do everything. And now we're building systems and hiring specialists and all of that stuff. But like the problems we get to tackle, the opportunities out there just get bigger and bigger. We're planning our next zero click events and we're going to have maybe like 800 people there versus in the one in London we had 400 people there, so like double the capacity, bigger venue, more speakers, and so like the challenges just get more fun as you kind of scale too.
It sounds like wild fun, chaos fun all at the same time, growing that rapidly. How does this kind of growth that you're experiencing at Profound, not just experiencing, but driving, because you're very much driving a lot of this in your role, compare to when you were leading growth at Loom, which I think was around 2023?
Yes.
How different does this look?
Yeah, it's honestly almost everything is different, except for like the common thread is that Loom and Profound were both like the perfect company positioned at the perfect time.
Mhm.
Loom, when I joined in 2021, I think, and then left in 2023. I left like 2 months after ChatGPT came out, which is kind of an insane, insane time in tech. Then I joined kind of right in the middle of the pandemic, and Loom's growth chart was just almost a straight line, like off the charts. They had a great product, great brand, and just like great timing too.
Yeah.
And the same is true for Profound. Of like we were early, we had good momentum, we have good marketing, we have good brand, and so all of those things are kind of those are the similarities. But after that, kind of like everything stops. Loom grew mostly by like referrals, word of mouth, like product virality.
Mhm.
Profound grows more from sharing original research and content and social, and LinkedIn, all of those things. The team sizes are different. When I joined Loom after they raised a Series C, they were about 300 people at their kind of like peak size. Profound is about 100 right now. The Loom marketing team at that time was like 20 people, and again, like our
Oh,
team is six, will be eight in a couple of days. And so I think marketing teams are kind of evolving, getting more lean.
mhm.
You can do a lot more now compared to then. And it's been cool to see how teams are adopting AI and using it to kind of just be more efficient overall.
Brilliant. What an exciting career you've had. I have to ask off the back of that, what does the go to market actually look like for Profound now? It's like a brand new sector within tech. At the same time, we've got all of these AI platforms, ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, coming into the channel mix. Like that's both what your product is working with, but it's also going to be affecting you, where you get your leads and customers from as well.
Yeah. It's been really interesting because I think I'd prefer to market a new product in a new sector than market a new product in an existing sector.
Mhm.
Mostly because to me, the go to market motion is much more straightforward. It's educational, it's teaching, it's like, what is this thing? Why does it matter? And that's a motion that comes very naturally to me of just like freely educating my audience or marketers, whether it's like a newsletter or LinkedIn. Like that just kind of it just clicks in my brain. And then when you're at Profound, we just have so much data, millions of
Mm.
prompts that we run, billions of citations. And so like immediately when I joined, the roadmap for go to market was basically how do we take our data and insights and then just build systems and processes and plumbing to talk about it. And that's been kind of the core go to market motion for us is how do we just package up all this information and share it with folks. And so really like by leading with that, it's almost easier to me than thinking through like, okay, what about like channel partners or like these other kind of like more traditional things. Like, no, it's just like, what's the fundamental? What's just how do we just like share and tell our story? And for me, that came quite easy.
Fantastic. And then how did the events slot into that? Was that something Profound was always going to do? Was it like one of the ideas from the marketing team? Like, how do we share these stories even further? Let's get on stage.
Yeah, some of the inside baseball of working at Profound is that every once in a while, James will just be like, "We should do this," and this is always like a radical idea, and so that's what happened with the events in Zero Click specifically. Like it was like one day, one afternoon, we were all just hanging out, and James was like, "Hey, we should put on a conference. Let's do it at Ramp's office in New York. We have some connections there. Let's like invite a bunch of people and make it this like exclusive AI search, like world's first event." And so it was him. It was kind of like his brainchild, and then of course it fell on the marketing team to go execute and make it happen. And then right before we had Zero Click New York, which was October of last year, I want to say it was like 2 days before the event. He was like, "I want to do it in London in 5 weeks again." And like we hadn't even done the first one, and he's already pushing us to plan the second one. And so that's one that's just part of Profound, and two, I think that's what makes
Super.
James a great leader and great CEO. Is he's one always thinking ahead, but always like encouraging us to think a lot bigger too. Like objectively planning a second event 5 weeks after your first event at this like massive venue, the Outernet in London is just like kind of an insane thing. But we're kind of an insane company who also does insane things, and so it just kind of like matches.
Yeah, I love that. That is the ultimate founder CEO personality is the ideas that just come and then how do we implement this for the marketing team to actually deal with the mechanics of all of it. And hugely impressive as well because by the time that you did Zero Click London, the size of even just your first event was so much bigger than a lot of marketing conferences that take place over here. So it was amazing to see how you scaled, well, the second event within just 5 weeks, honestly.
Yeah, it's like you can like my lesson there is like you can do way more than you think you can. Like my only regret about Zero Click New York is that we didn't do it big enough. Like our wait list was 1,400 people. We packed Ramp's office. It was like standing room only. The same in London too. And
Mhm.
Some of that is timing of the space and profound and our momentum and all of that stuff. But um, I think, yeah, companies and brands and marketing teams can aim really high. And I think you'd be surprised about what you can pull off, especially if it's something novel, something new. You can take a risk. And now Zero Click is one, it's a brand for us, which is amazing. And
Mhm.
then two, we're planning all of them for this year. And so we'll have one in San Francisco, probably in April, and then we'll repeat New York and London at some point this year too. And they'll just become pillar events for us as a business that all started because James pushed us to do this big event and do it on a quick timeline. And now that's just like going to be a thing for Profound for maybe ever, which is kind of cool.
So excited. I'm looking forward to the events. They're going to be amazing. Also, can I just say, three of the best locations you could have picked, I think.
Yes.
Definitely where marketers want to go to conferences. So let's say that we've got other brands listening who want to become market leaders just like Profound has. They want to be on an amazing growth trajectory like this. What would you recommend them when it comes to their marketing strategy? What would the makeup look like? How does AI search play into that?
Yeah, I think to me it comes down to starting with the makeup of your team. I think if I am a marketing leader, like the thing I'm doing right now is I'm figuring out like does the team I have, do they have the systems attributes in place that match my vision for what I think a modern marketing team looks like. My like personal vision for that is that teams are more, they become a bit more like generalists who can do many different things. Um, one of my favorite people to learn from, her name is Emily Kramer. She runs a newsletter and community called MKT1, and she has this concept of a gen marketer or a generative marketer. And it's she calls it someone who's kind of like a pie-shaped marketer. If you have experience in like two categories, call it like growth or product or growth in content, then you find ways to use AI and agentic systems to really scale and enable yourself. And so, like to give you an example, one of the things I'm doing with Claude Code right now is that I have a bunch of great images that I had my design team make, and I want to do that thing on LinkedIn, or I don't know if you've seen this, where you get one-to-one targeted ads on LinkedIn. The company who does this really well is called User Gems. And you basically get an ad that says, "Hey, Profound," like on the ad, visual ad, your logo is right there front and center, just like very like one-to-one direct ABM play. The
Mhm.
downside to running this is that you have to make all these ads manually. And so I went into Claude Code and I was like, "Hey, can I give you a list of companies and you download their logos for me?" And it was like, "Sure." And it just did it, which is crazy. And then I was like, "Okay, I have an image with kind of like a placeholder, can you go through and make one image for every company and then insert their logo in this exact spot on the image?" And it was like, "Sure, I can do that too." And so in a couple of hours, I had spit out like 100 different variations of this image with all these different, company logos swapped in there, and probably saved myself, 10, 20, 30 hours of manual work of like finding the logo, making the ad, all of that stuff. And so I think that, like, is maybe that's my personal bias of, like, I know that's possible, so I look for other people who can do that too, but I think that's the right mindset or thinking of if I'm building a marketing team, like, find people who can do that versus defaulting to maybe the old way of, "Let me make a ticket for my designer," and I say, "Hey, I need 200 copies of this ad, it would take forever." And so it's, like, reframing, I think, what's possible, like, how quickly you can move, and then how do you build your marketing bench with people who can just like do way more things like that at scale.
That's awesome. Sounds like you're hiring much more for a mindset almost. People who want to maximize the total amount of output they can do in marketing for the biggest impact rather than just like churning tasks. But how involved are you in the hiring, Nick, of your team? Like how do you actually find people that have that mindset?
Yeah. Um, that's the part you can't automate, unfortunately, is like the best people I found and hired are either referrals from people I
Mhm.
know, my network, that kind of thing, or me just spending a few hours on LinkedIn, like trying to find the right people. That's the benefit of like I've been very active and engaged with LinkedIn for years and years and years. And part of like my selfish reason of doing that is I wanted to build my own roster of people who I think are world class in doing it. And
Mhm.
uh, the people that are, they're doing the thing and they're talking about it instead of like just doing the thing and not talking about it. And so there are probably many more people out there who have similar attributes to what I just described. But if you don't talk about it, if you don't share your things, either like on social, LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit, whatever, no one knows about it. And so I would like really encourage people just to like start putting themselves out there, start sharing. It's probably the most impactful thing I've done to grow my career is just like be vocal and be present in whatever kind of like community you're in.
And do you mean that in terms of like sharing on sites like Reddit and LinkedIn, but also public speaking? How big a part has that been of your mix?
Yeah, I think the public speaking kind of follows from the first one of no one's going
Mm.
to invite you to go speak at a conference if they don't know you exist and they find out you exist because you post on LinkedIn. Like you can always apply to speak at these things, but if people have seen you and heard you, I think you're much more likely to get approved to speak. And so I think by starting just like sharing on Reddit or LinkedIn or Twitter, wherever you feel most comfortable, I think that's a good baseline that could lead to speaking opportunities down the road, which is exactly kind of the path I took too.
Yeah, awesome. So when we're thinking about like Profound's marketing mix and how you've scaled this over time, how has it been with the leadership team getting buy-in from James to do all of the things that you want to do to expand the team? Has that been like a yeah, let's just go, or have you had to actually negotiate a couple of different things to get the strategy you wanted off the ground?
Yeah, from a like a strategy perspective, James was pretty bought in from the beginning. He's very kind of like socially native. Um,
Hmm.
I think that if I could like toot my own horn for a second, I think the biggest win I had early on at Profound is when we were interviewing. I was like, "You should hire me, of course, but then you also need a product marketer." Like you can compound my work if you hire a product marketer. And I kind of outlined exactly how they would work together, how their inputs drive everything I do from competitor like ads, landing pages, keywords, messaging, positioning, all that PMM work drives growth work later. And so I truly had to convince James of what a product marketer is, what they do, how to find a good one. And so I was able to do that. And we found our first product marketer. His name's Trevor, and then we've now hired 3 more. Like, our marketing team is very stacked towards product marketing, and now they're kind of specialized into, like, pre-sales, post-sales, customer
Hmm.
enablement, which I think is absolutely the right move for a team. Like, me and on the growth side, I can move very quick, I can be nimble, but we need someone to really specialize and work with, like, customers and sales and all of that stuff. I think product marketing is one of the, like, most crucial roles in any company right now. Certainly for one like Profound, where our industry is very competitive and there's a million other like small versions of Profound out there. So like convincing him of the value of a product marketer. And then once he got it, it was instant. He was like, okay, now let's hire pre-sales. Now let's hire post-sales. Like every function of the business needs a product marketer, which I think is the dream because that job is so hard to measure. And
Hmm.
yeah, some CEOs and some leaders just don't get it. And I'm thankful that James does.
That's amazing. Awesome to hear how like the team has been growing so quickly and to also have buy-in from the leadership is amazing too. Let's talk a bit about like what Profound actually does. So you're an AI search tracking tool. You work with lots of different businesses, brands across all sorts of industries so that they can measure essentially how they're performing in ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and other LLMs, which comes with loads of challenges. One of the first ones being it's such a new concept to a lot of businesses. They first have to wrap their head around why they even be measuring that, which is presumably a core challenge of the marketing team communicating that situation to them. How involved are you in educating the customers that are coming to you?
Yeah. I'm surprisingly very involved in educating the customers.
Mhm.
Earlier on, I took a side quest and I became a salesperson at Profound for about 6 weeks.
Love that.
It was a function of we had too many leads and not enough salespeople to take them. And so I I stood up our automated lead scheduling routing system ourselves. And so one day I just like put myself in the lead routing queue and just started getting demos booked on my calendar. Did that for about 6 weeks. Took about like 60 demos of Profound, give or take. And yeah, I was very involved there. I've since retired, put my sales cap away, but and I still do get brought into sales deals quite often. I was on site with one last week. I've met with like 3 CMOs last week as part of a sales process, and it's so rewarding and so fun as a marketer to get to work at Profound and then go talk to other marketers who are having these kind of same challenges that we are. And I just come from like, I think I come from a very authentic place of I'm the subject matter expert who also happens to
Mm.
work at Profound. And so I'm using our account to increase our own AI visibility, citations. I'm using our new workflows product to like automate content creation, content orchestration, things like that. And so when you have someone internally who can kind of talk the lingo of your customer too, it just makes so much sense to deploy them in all of these places. And then I get the dopamine hit of when we close a deal, we have a Slack channel that all the new deals get posted in, and the AEs will tag everyone who helped contribute to the deal, and my name comes up pretty often. Like that's just a really fun and rewarding thing to be a part of too.
Oh, that's so amazing. You're really closing the gap between marketing and sales. I
Yeah.
also think working in sales is some of the best customer research that exists. Just going back to having conversations with them and understanding what are the challenges they're facing day to day and how what their need is, how can the business actually help them is some of the most important information that marketers can get. From the customers that you speak with, do you see that there's like common challenges across different customers? Is it very different for the very big brands compared to the challenger brands that come to you?
Yeah, what I found is it kind of like stair steps up based on company size. And so
Yeah.
small companies are just trying to be visible. They just want to be mentioned in the answer at all, like yes or no. And then kind of like mid-sized companies, they care more about if they're controlling the narrative or not, meaning how often is their domain, is their content cited in an answer. And so like that becomes like level two. If level one is just are you mentioned, then level two is like you're mentioned and your domain is cited the most in your space. You're kind of controlling the narrative. Your POV of whatever industry is what's being pulled through more often to AI search. The
Mhm.
next layer is sentiment. And so, okay, like we're being cited, but when people ask us, like, oh, how do you compare to this brand? Or like, is your brand good? Yes or no? That's kind of like the next level up too. And so you do visibility, citations, and then overall sentiment. And then the last thing, which we found like our largest like Fortune 10, Fortune 100 companies care about is accuracy. And
Mhm.
so it's more about like if you know if I'm Samsung, like does and someone asks like what colors does the S22 or S23 or whatever one they're on right now come in? What megapixels does the camera have? Yes or no? They really care about those kind of answers being accurate, and so it kind of like levels up and kind of peaking at accuracy. And so that's kind of like I think every company can kind of pick, focus on your thing first and then nail that and then level up from there.
I absolutely love that. It's interesting because, of course, our team uses Profound for the work that we do on our clients as well, and we see similar sorts of challenges at the smaller challenger businesses who want to show up in the right kind of search results in AI. They want to show up for the right kind of prompts that are actually going to get to their customers, ultimately, hopefully, lead to a buying journey and have that as a touch point in there, if not the final touch point, which is for some of our customers very much what happens. Whereas the bigger businesses, they're thinking so much more about sentiment. And just as you were saying there, and how the sentiment affects them. One of the clients that we work with, for example, came to us because they were searching themselves in AI and realizing that they were never described as innovative,
Mhm.
and they work as part of the corporate team who of course have to appeal to investors at that sort of scale of enterprise marketing and communication as well. And they were thinking, my goodness, if AI doesn't think we're innovative and an investor ever wrote our name into ChatGPT to ask information about, what we've been doing, the new research that we put out, and it doesn't call us innovative, that's ultimately not going to get us the investment that we want long term. So it's interesting, I think, from that small end of solving the problem of how does a business actually make sales, get customers from AI versus even that corporate scale, the communication, how are we positioned, how are we known in the market, how are we compared to our competitors? Like the challenges that are coming up in AI are so much broader compared to what SEOs know from the old days of how do we just get to the top of Google?
Yeah, exactly. And then with sentiment, you can see what pages are being cited. And
Mhm.
more often than not, for what I found is in Profound, you can filter citations by the sentiment prompts we run or the open-ended prompts, like what's the best tax software or whatever. And social platforms, Reddit, are like way over indexed on the sentiment side because it's people, probably complaining in some subreddit of like, oh, this price is too high or this thing, or I don't think this company is very, innovative, and it gives you a different lens into like not just like are you mentioned in an AI response, but like what is the context of that mention? Is it positive or negative? And you kind of like drill down and figure out the source too.
Love that. So, speaking about some of the world's biggest brands, is there anything you see that they're still not doing enough of that you think smaller challenger brands could be taking advantage of when it comes to AI search? Like when it comes to all of the tool suite that you have, all of the data you have, everything you see about what businesses are actually doing?
Yeah, I think the lowest hanging fruit for any company, and it's easy. It's There's more fruit for a big company than a small company here. Is just adopting FAQs, FAQ content, FAQ schema is the easiest way to kind of serve up answers to an LLM on a silver platter because people are asking it questions, and they match a question to an answer and you're much more likely to be cited. Webflow has seen great success adding FAQs to basically all of their product pages, all of their pages on their site. And kind of why I say big brands can be more effective here is because they have larger footprints, multiple product lines. It might be a global business instead of like a small US based startup. And so they have more surface area to kind of add FAQs to. It seems really simple, really easy. It definitely is, but it's been proven to work. And so if you can get buy-in and do it quickly, I have no doubt that a large company who just starts adding FAQs to all different parts of their website, provided like high quality content, it makes sense, all of that stuff.
Mhm.
I think they could see amazing results just doing that for a quarter or ideally less time a month.
The, buy-in that you just mentioned there is probably one of the biggest issues that marketers grapple with if they're working at sort of CMO, marketing manager, even marketing VP sometimes, or if they're very specifically an SEO lead in the business. Getting that buy-in from senior stakeholders who might not be fully up to date with what's happening in AI search, might not have experimented in this sector themselves, even if they are, and I'm sure they are, very familiar with ChatGPT, Gemini, using those kinds of tools themselves. What kind of advice would you give those people to get that buy-in at a higher level?
Yeah, I think where like I've managed a bunch of SEOs in the past, both at Loom and Mailgun and prior gigs,
Mhm.
and SEOs get so in the weeds and so technical, and they want to send their boss a gigantic spreadsheet of all the keywords and impressions that they pulled. When once you get to the director or VP level, like they don't really care. They care about the problem of like, is my hair on fire right now or no? And so I found that like the most effective people internally are the ones who are best at telling their boss that like something is on fire. And then you also tell them, but it's okay. I found this solution and like here's what we need to do to fix it. And so it's kind of about painting that picture. There was like a very large company who was in the Profound office last week,
Mhm.
who used more or less the exact same analogy of like we have to go to our team and tell them that like this is a true emergency that we're losing an AI search where our biggest competitor is winning. They had to paint this like true hair on fire moment. And then they're like, okay, but then if we go use Profound, here's what we can do. Here's how quickly we can combat this. Here's like the hiring shifts we need to make. And so I think it's definitely a skill that you have to learn as you kind of ascend and grow in your career of like not just doing your job, but marketing your job to internal stakeholders and directors and VPs and being able to communicate problems effectively. And then Not only that, but you've already found the solution and it's X or whatever, which is it's a different skill than just learning how to do SEO in the first place.
Absolutely. I often think so much of our careers and our jobs is marketing. So much more of it than we think is marketing, which is kind of an irony for everyone who works in marketing. Then you've also got the
Yeah.
personal marketing side, the stakeholder buy-in side, all of that. And if you manage a team as well, there's the side of how you get your team also involved and excited about
Mhm.
what you're actually doing and the marketing strategies that you're pushing forward with as well. There's just so much going on when it
Yeah,
comes to
and
that.
it doesn't come easy to marketers either. Like, we're good at
Yeah.
marketing everyone else's thing, but we're not good at
Yeah.
turning the mirror back on ourselves, which is this really weird problem that we have. Like, this is our job to do this, but doing it for ourselves, like, somehow feels strange. But if you can kind of, like, dispel yourself of that and start to, like, market yourself effectively, I think you'll see that compound across your career and internally and all those things.
One of my team members gave a great piece of advice the other day that was just assume that cringe doesn't exist. There
Yeah,
is no concept of cringe. That is not a thing. And you'll find it so much easier to actually do the personal marketing side of it if you just get rid of that belief system, that concept altogether.
yeah.
So yeah. Nick, you touched on there a couple of points where a client or a prospect that you're speaking to has been getting buy-in by actually showing some of the metrics inside Profound. For anyone who's listening that's not familiar with what Profound looks like, can you take us through what are the kind of key headline metrics that they might be able to get about their business in Profound that would support with their AI search marketing strategy long term?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, and so it starts, I think, with figuring out what prompts to track, either in Profound, and so we have a database that's now like 1.5 billion real user conversations that we have that you can search. And my favorite example is I was searching Taylor Swift when her and Travis got engaged, and like you can see by week how many people are searching for topics like that. And there was this massive spike in Taylor Swift searches.
All the
Um,
Swifties.
Yes, exactly. Everyone wanted to know, and so we'll show you the topics and the actual prompts that people put in, and so you can use those to then inform, like, what topics do I track, what prompts do I track, and then roughly how many people are searching for these things. That kind of helps you build the priority roadmap of like, okay, this topic has way more prompt volume than the other one, so we should start here and optimize this one first. And so then in the background, once you configure your prompts, we'll run them across 9 different answer engines, give you a nice snappy UI to click through and see all the results of what prompt was run in what location. We support like 80, 90, 100 different locations, meaning we'll run the prompt from that location as well. And you can toggle and look at your visibility, so how often your brand was mentioned, look at citations, how often your domain was cited, and then there's a few other things, but we have basically all of this data that then we now pulled into our new workflows product, which is our content creation, content orchestration suite, to where we can say, hey, let's pull in the 10, 20 most cited pages for this prompt on ChatGPT in the US. We'll analyze them and tell you what do they do well, what headings do they use, what structure, is it tables, bullet points, how do they, like, what words do they use in their headings? And then we'll give you a content outline that says, hey, here's what you need to write about. Here's how you structure your post to, rank very highly in, these answers. And then now we're starting to automate that whole process where you can think like a Zapier kind of like multi-step workflow of like this happens and then maybe we can do Perplexity deep research. And then like very shortly we're adding CMS integrations. And so then you can go all the way from like analysis to content brief to create the content to now publish it in Sanity, in WordPress, in Webflow, kind of like all end to end. And then the last sneak peek is we're adding Slack alerts too. So imagine you
Ooh.
build this workflow, you get to the end and it says, hey, your content is done. Ping Nick or ping Charlie in Slack to approve it, yes or no. You click approve, and then it just gets published to your CMS right away. And so that's kind of like the automation suite that we're building and will be core to Profound for this year.
That's absolutely amazing. Honestly, it's such a powerful tool suite, and it sounds like there are plans to make it even more powerful than it already is. Anyone who's listening that hasn't checked it out, I highly recommend jumping into Profound and actually having a play and a look at it. Just loading a couple of prompts, even to start with, so that you can see what it looks like and the kind of data you get back. It's well worth it. Nick, I have to ask you, you are doing so much in the business. Like, you're running these events, you're running the marketing team, you're hiring people, training them into the team, you're on podcast webinars. I've seen you public speaking as well. How do you have any semblance of personal life around work?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I think life comes in phases, and this is my like, do everything kind of moment right now. There's 2 things I do is, I wake up early, and so I wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I, prioritize fitness in my day, and so, I'm at the gym at 6:30 AM. I've been there quite literally every single day in the month of January when we're recording this so far. Not every month is like that. This is a special month where I'm trying to just, like, check every day, for whatever crazy reason. Um and so that's all the pre-work stuff of like, prioritize yourself before I get to work. And then once I'm here, I think the thing I do well that other people don't do well is I block my calendar, and then
And
I am an aggressive decliner of meetings. If you invite me to something and don't give me context, like I will decline and just not show up. And like because I play kind of hard to get, and like, by doing that, like, I add friction to, like, how people can come and interact with me, which means that, like, the stuff that really matters, like, the things that really need my involvement or I need to show up for or client meetings or whatever, the person will just come and find me, and they'll be like, "Hey,
mhm,
Nick, I have this thing. Here's what I need from you." Because I think like work and people default to kind of like the easiest option. And so if people realize they can just add you to calendar meetings and you just show up, then like that will just happen. But like by placing some friction in, I kind of make everyone work for it, which means they have to kind of fight and like really convince me that this thing is worth it in person. It's the benefit of me being in person at the Profound office all day.
yeah.
And like that has helped me prioritize things, by just adding that little bit of friction into it.
Oh, what's your personal criteria for the meetings that you do accept?
Yeah, it's
What
like
makes it through?
yeah, like usually it's really obvious of like the business case is obvious, but
Yeah.
like more often than not, what happens is that if I decline a meeting and no one comes and finds me, then like I didn't need to be in that meeting anyway. Like if I really needed to be there and they see I'm not going to be there, they will come and find me and be like, Nick, you need to come to this and here's why. And like that act of them doing that is the signal for me of like, okay, I am
Mhm.
required to be here. Otherwise, like that's maybe like half of them, if less. And so I think like that's like just say no is I think a powerful tactic.
Brilliant. I absolutely love that. Just absolute brutal calendar blocking and meeting declining.
Yeah.
It's your biggest growth hack at work.
And everyone is so nice. Everyone wants like your default as a human, you wanna help, you wanna be
Yeah,
nice, and like that's good, but then your calendar, your day ends up being crazy and you prioritize other people's events or time over like what you think you should be doing that actually moves the needle. And so, yeah, just say no.
brilliant. Last question. If you could send a text message back to yourself on the day that you started your career, Nick, what growth advice would you send to yourself? What would you say?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. Um, I think based on my career and where I have seen the most growth and success, I think the advice I would give me on my first day is ask for forgiveness, not for permission. Um, Which is like maybe not the best generic advice, but like I can look back and reflect on my career and like all the big spikes, the big moments, like my biggest wins often have all come from things that I had strong gut intuition of like I need to go do this. I want to go do this thing, and then I just go do it and tell my boss about it later. And there's a bunch of like context and like it depends kind of like wrapped all within that, but like in general like I think biasing towards action of like doing the thing instead of biasing towards like
Mhm.
thinking, asking, planning, um, And like just the action part has always worked better for me than if I spent like ages mapping something out, planning, asking for permission to do a thing. Um, and so I think like the more you can just like go and do it, is that's like every time I've done that, I've been more successful.
I love that. Sounds like, you bring the same mindset upwards as well as to your own team as well.
Yes.
Take the action and, if you need to talk about it later, then they will find you
Yes,
if they
exactly. Like
need
I
you.
again, I just hired someone and I was like, I would just do things. Like I would rather you do you do 10 things and fail at 9 of them than do 2 things, and only fail at 1 of them. Like I want you to be trying and failing and just like moving faster. You'll like get to the right conclusion, the right growth hack, the whatever it is, much faster if you just make lots of smaller decisions quicker. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I truly believe it.
Amazing. Nick, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your advice, your marketing strategy thoughts, your personal growth, all of it. If people want to find you, they want to find out more about Profound, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, if you want to find me on LinkedIn. Would love to connect and say hi. And then yeah, go look up Profound, tryprofound.com. I'm sure you'll see us around on LinkedIn at conferences. We'll be at Brighton SEO. Yeah, look out for a big zero click announcement for us from us pretty soon too.
Fantastic. Nick, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Charlie.